Malcolm X had emerged in the early 1960s as a radical alternative to Martin Luther King and nonviolence, which he called the philosophy of the fool.
Condemning the racist practices.
As the chief spokesman for a black nationalist group called the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X espoused self-reliance and separatism rather than integration. To his admirers, he was a courageous advocate for black rights. But for many others, he symbolized reverse racism, black supremacy, and violence.
In a vicious cycle of poverty, of ignorance, of apathy, of disease, and of death. And they have these old Uncle Tom Negro leaders coming to Harlem telling you and me that times are getting better.
His revolutionary rhetoric infected many civil rights veterans, especially within the core of SNCC.
You're going to sit in front of your television set and listen to LBJ tell you that violence never accomplishes anything, my fellow Americans. But you see, the real problem with violence is that we have never been violent. We have been too nonviolent.
Under the new leadership of Stokely Carmichael, SNCC assumed a militant posture beginning in 1966. The group's mantra of nonviolence was replaced by the chorus of Black Power.
Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for black people in the United States. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none.
The first thing that crossed my mind with Stokely is, you know, he has so much power and passion and fire inside of him. And he understood what his job was very early. And he understood why, even though the things he was saying were in direct opposition to the philosophy of Dr. King, he understood that Dr. King was still important.
Across the bay from San Francisco in Oakland, California, the Black Panther Party burst on the scene. Founded by Bobby Seale, a street-smart community organizer, and Huey Newton, a charismatic young law student, angry with the police.
We are a new organization. We're observing these police have been brutalizing our people in the community, and we're a political organization. We're going to try to unify the people, and we know the law.
They provided surveillance on police officers because Oakland at that time had one of the most racist police forces in the country. While we had an advancing, developing, expanding black middle class, we also had a declining, eroding, expanding black underclass and lower class. The Black Panther Party was one of the few organizations that attempted to organize and advance the interests of that particular population.
Black Panthers is an armed organization. What does that mean?
It means that if any racist dog, policemen, or pigs come up and attack us at any point or whatever point, we will defend ourselves, we will shoot them, we will kill them, because we are bent on surviving.
When you talk about a revolution, most people think violence, without realizing that the real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them. On the other hand, because of the way this society is organized, because of the violence that exists on the surface everywhere, you have to expect that there are going to be such explosions. You have to expect things like that as reactions.
The Black Panthers were one manifestation of Black America's growing frustration. Black communities in other cities simply exploded in rage.
The civil rights movement could rightfully claim victory in desegregating the South and opening its voting rolls to millions of blacks who had been disenfranchised for a century. But the rioting demonstrated that deep problems remain.
We need to know the answer, I think, to three basic questions about these riots. What happened? Why did it happen? What can be done to prevent it from happening again and again?
President Johnson appointed a special committee to study the violence and race riots of the late 1960s. The Kerner Commission concluded that America was moving toward two separate societies, one black, one white, separate and unequal. It warned that frustration and resentment resulting from brutalizing inequality and white racism were fostering violence by blacks.
Racism, and they found a whole variety of American institutions implicated in it.
The war in Vietnam would soon overshadow the war on poverty. The nation's attention had shifted to a tiny country called Vietnam.
The president essentially shunned the Kerner Commission report.
Black Power brought an end to the civil rights movement that began with the Montgomery bus boycott in 1956.
The Black Power protests at the Olympics by American sprinters Tommie Smith and John Carlos.
Smith and Carlos' demonstration was not anti-American. It was pro-human rights, and most specifically pro-black rights. People either wept and cheered, or they were outraged to the rafters.
Smith and Carlos were expelled from the Olympics, but their Black Power salute became one of the most provocative and enduring images of 1968. Increasing numbers of white radicals began to aspire to the more confrontational model of the Black Panthers.
I have these Black Panthers up here with guns on the second floor.
Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest?
Place him under arrest. Go ahead.
Take your hands off me if I'm not under arrest.
The Young Lords Party did not just appeal mainly to Puerto Ricans. They gave motivation to all Latinos across the nation. In any shape or form, the Young Lords Party views were similar to the Black Panther Party.
The judges and the state's attorney have been working with the GIU and everyone else to try to suppress the Young Lords organization, who are trying to speak out. You know, we're a poor organization who works for poor people, and we're trying to speak out and let the world know what poor people want. In trouble, and there's going to be more trouble, and we're going to continue to have more trouble. You see, people are learning to struggle together, people are learning to fight together.
The origins of college and university ethnic studies departments nationwide were forged in the heat of a 134-day strike at San Francisco State College.
As the 1970s dawned, African Americans were no longer at the back of the bus, but the challenge of achieving true freedom and equality remained. It would be left for the next generation and those who followed to finish, once and for all, what President Lincoln had started.
In a thunderous, resounding, united voice that we have no intentions of stopping this fight until we have eradicated every single remnant of racism in this country. Until we have ended the war in Vietnam and the neo-colonialism in Africa. We are not going to stop fighting until every political prisoner is free and until all the monstrous dungeons in this country are mere memories of a nightmare. Sisters and brothers, that is what the power of the people is all about.